Last semester?
Yeah, it was last spring.
Last spring. Time flies.
It does.
The year's almost done, and it was definitely a blast. And we had a panel. Was that during that period as well?
Yeah, that was last spring as well.
Okay, fantastic. So it's a pleasure to be here. My name is Chad Tonko, and I'm 15 years old. I'm just kidding. I look like it. I get that all the time, so I might as well break the ice with that. It's because I'm Asian. We don't age. That's just how it goes. It is what it is. So. As he mentioned, I'm currently the campus director / president, the same thing, at Unitech College. But prior to this, my family and I ran Southern California Medical College, which we specialized in nursing and allied health. So all things healthcare, specifically nursing though. We produced vocational nurses, and we also helped RNs and bachelor's of science in RNs or nursing prepare for their board exams, their national board exams. So that's kind of my background in terms of the business aspect. In terms of educational aspect, I graduated with my bachelor's of science degree in a private college in Orange County, who unfortunately succumbed to what the DOE is actually going after for now, are people that, or institutions that are just going for people's financial aid at that time. They had significant or exorbitant prices in terms of programs, and that's all they wanted to do was get money. So I graduated from that school. It was called RN Learning Center, so it's all Bachelor of Science in Nursing. I did take my prereqs for nursing here at CCUB, and I had classes here in this very room, which is really cool. Yeah, really cool right now, deja vu. I never thought I'd be up front. And so I did that, and then now for my graduate program, I don't know how I got in it, but I got in Stanford, their Graduate School of Business, maybe because I'm Asian. I'm just kidding. But so I got in there, and I'm taking courses for MBA, but at the same time taking a certificate course called the LEAD program, which is really interesting because it stands for Learn, Engage, Accelerate, and Disrupt. And it's literally disrupting markets. You study about disrupting markets and finding gaps within markets that you can't disrupt, and then disrupt it eventually. And so we're working a lot with venture capitalists. A lot of our professors are VCs from Google, or who funded Google and Apple and all that. My classmates are from all over the world. Senior vice presidents from Verizon, China, India, Australia, you name it. I mean, a really cool experience. So if you get to that point, I strongly suggest that you take an online course like that, like the LEAD program, and then at the same time do an MBA. Just because you're exposed to so many different culture around the world, and business nowadays is not just regional, it's not just local, but it's global. And so that's kind of my thing. I'm married, no kids, been married for 5 years. My wife and I actually met here on campus, CCUB, at, is Wahoo still here?
I don't think so.
Okay, so there was a pub called Wahoo's back in 2008 or something. And I was getting myself a beer because I was thirsty. I was a nursing major, and so I got in there and she was serving beer, and I was like, hey, what's up? You're cute. So let's hang out. So that's how we met. And we got married in 2013. No kids yet, so don't want kids. Yeah, man, gotta just work. So, anyways, I'm gonna dive right into it. I don't want to bore you guys to death. I really just enjoy sharing perspective with you guys, and hopefully be able to answer the questions and do you guys justice by answering the questions correctly. So forgive me if I mispronounce your name. I'm going to go with the first name rather than the last name because it's typically easier to say. So the first one's by Muhammad. And how did you like working as a campus director at Unitech College? So first and foremost, coming from a family-owned business into a corporate world, it is fairly different, actually a lot different. And it's difficult in terms of transition because I was CEO at our company, and now I'm working as a campus president here, and my direct report is the COO of the whole corporation. So currently we have 7 campuses total, 1 in Southern California, 6 up north in the Bay Area. And so we're the only one here. Coming from, I think there's 45 employees to 450 overnight was difficult because now I'm literally having to reach out to different departments, so many different people within a department, and just learning how to do that. I like it because it's still the same concept in terms of operations and responsibilities. The biggest difference for me is having the freedom of having your own time, and not having to worry about, being on campus from 8 to 5. Because, I could do whatever I wanted in terms of business development, community relationships, or even business meetings off campus. Now that we're Unitech College, you're kind of held accountable to be on campus because you have to run your campus based on how the corporation likes it. And so that's the biggest difference for me. I still enjoy it because we're still doing the same core things, training nurses. The biggest positive change that we, acquired from Unitech is attaining the Bachelor's of Science in Nursing program, as well as the Associate's Degree in Nursing program. As many of you know, only CSUB and BC locally offers the nursing program. And it's so highly impacted, it's ridiculous. And so that was the initial thought that we had as a family and our board of directors that were part of our company, was that, if we open up the door for another nursing program here in Bakersfield, we would totally capture the market, because at this point, we're private and we don't have any wait list. The other thing that is going for us, and I know I'm at CCUB, but it's just business truths, if you will, is that we're not government subsidized in terms of our budgets, our capital budgets. And so our company's owned by a private equity group from Chicago called Cressy, and they have $1 billion, funds. And so our CEO literally gets free rein, in terms of growth and development. And it's really neat to see that Unitech is that way. So by Q1 and Q2 next year, we're hoping that we will open 2 more additional campuses, one in LA and one in Orange County, still focused on nursing. So hopefully I answered that one fairly. Do you see yourself working in another area other than the medical care industry? Yes, the answer is yes. I am an entrepreneur by heart. So as we speak, I'm actually working on a couple of different projects. One of the projects, and I'm going to share with you, I'm going to share with you because it's not really that confidential anymore. We're building a lifestyle men's brand right now. My wife and I, along with a couple of people, industry experts. It's going to be called Urban Classic. And the whole notion behind it is literally my personal conflict. Because I'm 29 years old, and in the medical industry, I have to work with a lot of older hospital administrators, executives, CEOs, or anyone in the healthcare industry. And I am literally almost always the youngest person in the room. And so because of this role that I took on as COO and then CEO, I kind of was forced to grow up very quickly in terms of, how I conduct myself and how I dress and things of that nature. So we were sitting one day, BSing around, me and my friends, and, we're having some drinks, and I was like, you know what, man, I'm tired of it. I'm 29, I'm always the youngest, and I feel like I can't really live my life, because I'm in the public eye, and I can't do any stupid things that I used to do. And so I came up with this idea, and I bounced it off my wife, and she totally loved it. So urban doesn't necessarily mean homeless or looking homeless, like a hobo or whatever. And then classic doesn't necessarily mean that you have to look boring and look like a snooty, executive or whatever. So it's literally a combination of my yin and my yang, because there's a part of me, like today I showed up at a board meeting with some joggers on and like a long shirt and like a motorcycle jacket, and they're just like, what the heck, like my fellow board members were like, do you need me to take you to a homeless shelter, but like that's a type of stereotype that I want to break. And so we're building this up right now, and we're going to do grooming, we're going to do fashion, we're going to do cars. I do some brand ambassador work for Maserati and Alfa Romeo on the side, so I get to do some fun stuff with them. So yeah, so that's going to be included. So yes, outside of the medical field, I'm definitely interested in that, as well as real estate, diversify. So I mean, it's business 101. Oh yeah, another thing is I'm working on another project with a local entrepreneur. He owns. Oh, I can't share that part, but he runs a company, and they're about 150 employees strong. They've been around for 10 years, and they primarily do document management, EMRs for the healthcare industry. So we're working on a project where I would step in, part of the ownership, and run the healthcare side of the business. And so we'll see if that'll come to fruition. If it does come to fruition, then I will exit my role as the campus president right now, and then move forward with that endeavor. So I'm always wanting to do something different because whenever I feel stagnant, I am miserable. And I have a nickname. My nickname is a racehorse because I'm always just on the go. And it's something. If you're an entrepreneur, there's something inside you that's always ticking. What's the next idea? And if you can put it on paper and make it a reality, that's great. What are the career paths in this department or company? So, per campus, there are 7 different departments that we run as campus presidents. There's 7 of us. So 7 departments. First department would be admissions. You've got your operations. You've got your student services. You've got your financial services. You also have your registrar, and you've got your business office. And lastly, academics. So all those departments report to you as campus president. Each department has their own director, and then obviously they have their employees under them. So those are different career paths that you can, I guess, progress from in our system. Each school system or organization has different paths, but for us, I think the likelihood of you growing within that department is really good. Probability is probably about 75% at this point because of our growth rate. We're looking to expand nationally within the next 24 months. Outside of California, we already have a campus in Chandler, but that focuses more on the IT side. So that's really neat. Hey, this is not going to go on Facebook or anything like that, is it? I'm just kidding. I don't know.
It doesn't go on Facebook. I post it to YouTube.
Okay.
And then put a link to the YouTube video on my syllabus.
Okay. No, I don't mind.
Okay.
Yeah, I was just joking. And so that's what we're planning on doing with Unitech College. So 7 departments, and there are a lot of career growth or growth potential. What is the biggest risk that you've taken? Man, a lot. God. Probably this merger and acquisition with this new college, selling our family company to them. And that actually occurred July 31st of this year. And so it's been buzzing. And I don't know, there's mixed feelings, to be honest, based on what I shared earlier, not having the same kind of freedom. But at the same time, on the bright side of things, my parents are now retired. They're in Belize, living life.
Nice.
They have a couple of ranches there, and they're not worried about this anymore. So I really enjoy that part. So I think that was the biggest risk, because if we would have sold and we didn't negotiate right, and we would look back, and I knew that once we've gotten taken over, we've gotten acquired, and I stayed on as campus president, I'd see the next 3 to 5 year financials. And it would challenge how I outlooked our acquisition, if we really valued the company correctly or appropriately. And thankfully, I was within the 90th percentile of that, along with our council and accounting team. So, yeah, that's probably the biggest risk. What made you choose to be in the medical field? I was born in the medical field. My dad's a doctor. My grandpa's also had 5 doctorate degrees. He was crazy. But he also divorced 5 times. So, that's probably his karma. He died a little bit early because I think he has too many chicks. But it is what it is. He had side chicks everywhere. And then my uncles, they were like doctors and PTs and stuff. So that's kind of all I knew. In essence, they were medical professionals, but they were also entrepreneurs, because doctors nowadays, you start your own practice, and you got to be able to run your own business. And so that's why they have dual degrees now, where you get your MD and your MBA at the same time, to be able to help that side of the business, if you will. So, what team building activities do you recommend? Oh man, this is funny, because I actually just, right before I came here, I sent out an email to our staff on campus, and I said, there's 46 days left before Christmas. What the heck do you guys want to do? Anyways, it probably doesn't, apply to this, but so or team activities are so important. Especially with this transition, I've found out people get burnt out, and people, when there's change, tend to push the limits as to what they can do and see what the new corporation or organization willing to do to kind of reprimand you or stuff like that, both students and staff alike. So for me, I like getting together with my staff for dinner, or even a Condor game, we rent out a suite and just hang out with them outside of the office environment and get to know them on a personal level, meet their spouses or significant others, and then build a relationship on a personal note. Because for the most part, in our business, we have long days, and so our campus is open from 8 to 8 p.m. 8 to 8, and so there's a lot of people, a lot of time that you spend there. Sometimes spend more time with your coworkers than your family at home. And so I really treasure getting to know them on a personal level and investing with them. And then also I meet with them on a weekly basis. We have staff meetings on a weekly basis, and we go through a book together. So this time we're going through The Effective Executive by Peter Drucker. And guy's awesome. You guys are all business majors. You probably have heard of him or read some of his texts. It literally talks about time management, and that every single one of us who are not labor workers are executives in our own rights, because we're knowledge workers. So we're not paid by how much concrete we lay down. We're paid by how much productive work we do in terms of knowledge-based initiatives. And it's crazy how they actually, put metrics behind it. I don't know, if you're a nerd like me, you'll really enjoy it. So, The Effective Executive. Where and how did you get your education experience, nursing, education, healthcare? I think I covered that in the beginning, so I'm going to skip over to the next one. What inspired you to move from the medical field into the education field, and are there similarities? So after my bachelor's degree, I got heavily involved in the family business, and I found it to be really rewarding, because we would take on students that are primarily working at McDonald's or Starbucks at first, and not knowing what they really like to do. So they'd come in the admissions office and hey, I'm looking into this medical program, and what our admissions team do is they literally sit there and do career planning with them, talk about the different options that they have within nursing in itself or allied health, like medical assisting, medical office administration, little less rigorous than nursing. So it's really neat, because now I walk through, let's say, Mercy Hospital or Adventist Health, and some of our graduates are working as nurses, and they'd come up and give you a hug. And it's the best feeling in the world, because 5 years ago, they came in and they're literally, working at Starbucks, and now they've elevated not only their socioeconomic status, but also making a difference in other people's lives around our community. And the fact that we can pride ourselves in producing quality nurses is also another awesome feeling. So we have the Bakersfield campus has a pretty good pass rate in terms of state average for NCLEX. So Cal State, you guys are always in the 90s, because you guys have a phenomenal program. At one point, we were at 100%. In 2013, then 91%. So we were kind of up here with Cal State and BC. So we were really excited about that, and we pride, even though we're so much smaller than BC and Cal State, we pride in the quality education we give out. Did you face challenges when you decided to change your experience in the business field for the nursing and health education? I wouldn't say challenges, but a change in perspective. I didn't fully understand the gravity of what nursing education's impact is in our local community. Because if these nurses got out and passed their program and for some reason, passed the board exam and they didn't really study through the program, they have the capability of hurting your loved ones, my loved ones, if ever they end up working in a hospital or a skilled nursing facility here locally. So I never viewed it that way. Coming into the business side of it, you're obviously worried about profitability, different margins, KPIs that you have to continuously track, YOY metrics, things of that nature. But there is a realness to it in terms of physical aspect, taking care of people, and making sure that they're safe and effective nurses. So that was the switch that had to happen, because as a young businessman, I'm gonna be frank with you guys. I wanted to make money, and so to make money, you have to run an efficient operation. And in order for you to run an efficient operation, sometimes you have to, kind of tighten up on certain departments. One thing I quickly noticed is that if you tighten up in the academic department, you're going to go down very quickly. So right now, the biggest budget that we have in terms of premium labor or premium overhead are for our academic team. And nurses are not cheap to hire anyways, and so we have we range from doctorate's degree in nursing, PhD in nursing, to master's degree, and then bachelor's degree, and then also vocational nurses that's been around for many, many years. So those are the kind of staff that we have currently on campus. Did you find it difficult to leave Southern California Medical College after being with the organization for more than 9 years? Based on your experience, what are the major differences and challenges you face entering an organization as an entry-level employee compared to a director? So, yes, so 9 years ago, I started at my parents' business as a front desk receptionist. That was really cool because I really got to see what it felt like to be, in the entry-level portion of our industry or in our business in general. So it's totally different, in terms of responsibilities. The stresses are also different. Both have stresses, both have deadlines that you have to meet. It's just all different scales, if you will. So with the front desk receptionist, I had to worry about answering the phones right and making sure I'm getting through the leads right and passing them out to the right admissions team member timely. And then at the same time, make sure that I was able to help out our directors in terms of flight travels or whatever they need. And so I was kind of like an admin assistant. So I did that too, and that was really neat. And now I'm able to share that perspective with our current receptionist and admin assistant, and it's just totally different. If I were to go back, would I go back? And what would I do differently? I'd say I'd engage myself more. So during that time, I was a surfer. I'd literally drive from Bakersfield to Huntington Beach every day. I'd leave Bakersfield at 4 a.m. to catch the morning surf, and then drive back up in time for work at night. Totally crazy. So I spent all my salary, all my compensation in surfing. So I did that, but I kind of wanted to be a professional surfer. But not living by the ocean was tough. So I just have long hair, really long beard, and I don't know, my wife turned me into something like this, so it is what it is. How did you like working for Youth for Christ? Oh, that was really neat. It was a really cool experience to be part of the board there. Unfortunately, I had to step down earlier, I think it was June of this year, just because of this pending transaction that was happening. It preoccupied my time. But it was really neat seeing students go through their program. Even though it's a religious program, they really had a way to build people up or the youth up in terms of skills, getting them out of difficult situations at home. In Kern County, We don't see it a lot. My wife is a part of the CASA board. I don't know if you're familiar with CASA. They're court appointed special advocates, so they're there for foster children that are going through the court proceedings, and they help them out. Anyway, she's on the board there, and it's kind of the same concept. They help the youth of our county and of our city to get through the toughest times in their lives. They put them through housing, they help them through school, they provide school supplies, and then they get them engaged in church activities, which is a positive influence in their lives. And I really enjoyed it. There was one time where we got an opportunity, my wife and I got an opportunity to play the guitar and sing some Christmas carols, for them. And that was really cool. It kind of brought tears to my eyes, to be honest, because these are kids that are, 10, some of them are 6, as young as 6 years old, and they're hurting, and they're going through tough times, and teen parents, they're going through tough times. So it's a great way for people to get second chances despite of their, unfortunate decisions, past decisions. How do ever evolving medical regulations impact your education center? Fantastic question. I wouldn't say that Obamacare directly hits us, the Affordable Health Care Act directly hits us, but the Obama administration did not like the for-profit education or private post-secondary education because of the notion of predatory enrollment. Essentially, just bringing people from off the streets, veterans, and use up all their GI Bill for the sake of profitability. Fortunately for us as an industry, those institutions have been closed down by the Department of Education. I mean, large ones. Unfortunately, a lot of us were hit. IDC Tech, Corinthian Colleges, which was massive. University of Phoenix, now going through a lot of huge overhaul in terms of operations. They recently was sold, to a different entity. They're no longer ran by Apollo Group, and so it's a tough environment because even though at the end of the day we're helping a lot of students out, the government still doesn't want us around because they believe in traditional education like this, universities and colleges. But the truth of the matter is there's not enough room for all of us, to go through all the universities that we have here in the United States and community colleges. So I know you might be able to argue that, and I'm open to discussion. But it's just neat to be able to go to school, graduate in a year, and then be able to go to work, and make some money. What were some difficult decisions you had to make as CEO of SCMC? It's a lot. I'll find a good one. I guess the biggest thing was the biggest thing was literally convincing our board of directors that we should pursue acquisition and being sold. Because we were profitable, and I'm able to disclose it because it's done now, but in 2016 we were operating at I think it was 61% margin, and that was our net profit, for the year is 61%. And so the board was really happy with me, and I wasn't stingy, with anyone at all. We gave as much as we can to academics and, people in the operations departments and stuff like that. We were just profitable, but at the same time, I had the gut feeling that in order for us to get to that next level and bring the ARN program in town, that we needed to sell to this company. I approached quite a few well-known individuals here in terms of business, to gain more capital for us so that, we can have enough capital for the ARN program to launch it. But for some reason, it just didn't work out. I approached different institutional partners that could have possibly worked out, but because of their status, they're unable to help us out, entity status. And so with that said, it was kind of like, okay, either we go to a private equity group, which at this point we were too small, or we go to a private investor, which at this point we'll take on another owner, and my parents were opposed to that. So I was like, well, it's either those two or we sell 100% all our shares to this new company. And eventually, after much deliberation, they decide to agree with me, and we moved forward with it. So that was pretty difficult because it's easy to make a change when things are going terrible, and then when things are going phenomenally well and you propose a change, it's like, if it's working, why change something? So that was kind of the philosophy behind that. But at the end, it worked out. What made you go into the medical field? I think I answered that one. What do you look for when building a great team? Diversity. I like hiring people, and you've heard this over and over again. I like hiring people that are much smarter than me in my weaknesses. So we do a SWOT analysis. I do my own SWOT analysis for myself. I encourage our team to do our own SWOT analysis and just list down each and every single one of our strengths and weaknesses, opportunities and strengths, or threats, and see how we can mesh up. So we're in growth mode and we're hiring. In the last 3 months, we've hired about 6 personnel, and it's for our campus. That's a lot, in 3 months. And so I'm having to learn how to work with these new team members, and it's really all about hiring someone that's bright, capable, that's full of integrity, and ethical in what they do. And so that's what I look for. In terms of interview style, I'm pretty laid back. I let them know that I'm not if you're looking for a micromanager, I'm sorry, I'm not one. I believe in allowing people to blossom where they're at and hiring bright people that are that have the initiative, to dig deeper and think outside the box. Even though we have set standards and operational parameters, you still at times, you're always thinking as an executive or as a team member, how can we better this process, or how can we better our systems? So, I hope that answered that question. What exactly do you mean about for-profit higher education industry? So, for-profit is essentially a private company. That's just what it is. It's a private company that runs an educational institution. We've got not for-profit educational institutions that are tax-exempt institutions, such as, let's take a very good example would be, what's that company? Oh my God, I'm blanking out. They're in Arizona. They're pretty big. They're like purple. Purple is their color. Grand Canyon.
Grand Canyon. Okay.
Yeah, Grand Canyon University. So they're primarily a not-for-profit educational institution in 2003, but they were suffering, and so they needed to bring in some funds. And so the president, who used to be the president at University of Phoenix, took over, and he turned the company into a private company, and eventually a public company, that did their IPO. And so now that they're so huge, their tax liabilities are massive. And so they're trying to go back into being a not-for-profit status, but the SEC and Department of Education are giving them a hard time of doing that because for some strange reason, they're unable to due to some regulatory issues. So anyways, with that said, that's the difference between both. What are some challenges you had to overcome? Wow, on a personal note, being young was the most difficult part of being in the healthcare industry, because you walk in a meeting room and literally everyone's probably 40 and above, and especially the senior execs, they're well into their 50s and 60s. And you first walk in and you literally get what the hell are you doing in this room, look. And you have to prove yourself, you have to be able to sit there and take whatever questions they might have and then answer accurately, answer with conviction at the same time, and back it up with data, and metrics. So that was the most difficult part, because when I started as COO, which was I don't know, 6 years ago, I was only 23, and I look young now. I look younger then, and that was pretty difficult. There were times where I'd come home and I'd tell my wife, I'm like, what am I doing? Like, I don't know if I'm going to do this. I'm going to be able to get through it. But with honestly, and it sounds so cliche, but with enough conviction, grit, perseverance, and knowing where you're going. That's the biggest thing. Is if you know where you're going and you like where you're going, you're going to work hard for it, and you're going to endure whatever it is that'll come your way. Because I feel like a lot of times hindrances or walls before us are an optical illusion. We let our fears kind of cave in, and it paralyzes us, and it stops us from thinking outside the box, because there's this huge challenge before me. It's either I get paralyzed, I sit back in my chair and let it, beat me up, or I stand up and face it, face to face, and say, you know what? Okay, you're before me, but I'm still alive, and what doesn't kill me makes me stronger. So how am I going to get through this and beat this? Let's take my good buddy, for example. He's been wanting to relocate to California. He's in Wisconsin, and he's a creative. So videography, photography, that's kind of his thing. And the biggest obstacle that he has in his mind is, how am I supposed to build clientele in California when I'm only there, less than 5 months a year? And all I could think about when I was reading this text is, so there's this fella in the middle of the desert that is looking over or looking at mountain ranges all around him. And no matter where he looks, there's different portraits that could be taken and captured, and then there's also huge mountain ranges that he needs to be able to overcome to get to his destination. And so it's a matter of taking that one step, getting to that place where you could take a beautiful portrait, climb up a wall. It's difficult. It's hard. You're going to climb up boulders, and elevation's changing, so your oxygen's getting thinner and thinner. But then you get to this part of the mountain, and there's another beautiful portrait there. And then so along the way, you kind of just enjoy the process, right? It's not about the destination, but enjoying the process. So that's the biggest challenge for, I believe, as a millennial, as an older millennial, is that because we live in such an instantaneous society now, where we want everything so instant, and we want everything gratifying right away, we kind of lose sight the importance of working through it and enjoying the process. So for me, that it's just as important, because if you have that mental roadblock, you can't think. You can't get creative. You can't move forward. And that's just my 2 cents to it. How did you make the decision to follow this career path? I grew up into it, and I just saw the rewarding aspect of it, and seeing people elevate their socioeconomic status. So, having been the CEO of Southern California Medical College, did you feel that you were responsible for more than you thought you could manage every single day? Every single day. There wasn't a day where I would sit back in my chair and think, man, if I drop the ball, what are the repercussions, what are the ramifications, and who are the people that will be affected? And it's almost always students and their families, or employees and their families. And it's a huge kind of burden to carry on yourself. And so the only way to alleviate that burden is for you to trust in the process that you've created with your team, build a great team to be able to implement different initiatives that work, and at the same time, not be afraid or not be foolish of not receiving constructive criticism from your team. Because as business leaders, even as business students, it's all about being lifelong learners. We never stop learning. And no matter what situation, what season of life you're in, you always have to have an open mind and learning. And I think for me at times as a young leader, that's the most difficult part, because there were times where I let my leadership get into my ego, and my ego got huge. And you know what? I lost a lot of money. Not only did I lose a lot of money for the company, but I lost key people in the company, because of my ego. So ego doesn't really, there's no such thing as a one-man show. There's no such thing as that person knowing everything, the CEO knowing everything. There's a reason why he's got an executive team or she's got an executive team, because those executive team members have different specialties in those areas. And so in order for you to be able to make the right decision, you need to be able to rely on those people, your generals, if you will. And so, don't ever be afraid of hiring someone that's better than you in a different department or in a different subject matter. But at the same time, be confident in what you know and then fly with it. Get good at it. So if you're an operator, be a really good operator. Know the ins and outs of the business. What kind of metrics do you need to be able to understand the fluctuations in the market with oil going down? How will that affect the education industry or healthcare? Would that increase it or would that decrease it? With ag, especially in Bakersfield. Baby boomers retiring, getting older. How's that affecting the grand scheme of the healthcare industry? And then, last but not least, we're second in the state of California of millennial migration. We're just under Riverside. How is our industry going to serve these incoming millennials? How can we be appealing to them? So those are different aspects that you kind of look for. But yes, the answer is absolutely. I felt a lot responsible every day, more than I could manage. Did you plan on working in the medical industry when working on your business degree at Stanford? Yes. I was able to get in because I was already an executive for 6 years at our campus. And so that's the only way they really took me in. I wasn't the brightest student. Nursing is difficult in itself, but majority of Stanford students that get accepted probably 3.9, 4.0 GPA. I mean, they don't take anyone lightly. So I got a 3.85 as my cumulative GPA, but that's like nothing. So many people are so much smarter at Stanford. Sometimes I'm sitting there and I'm like, what the hell am I doing? What am I doing here? I'm so blessed, to be sitting here and listening to all these people. And sometimes I get lost in people's conversations, to be honest. I just listen there and I take it in. A lot of times I sit there and just observe people's perspectives and learn and absorb it, because you learn more when you listen. When you teach, you're kind of sharing what you've learned, but you're not receiving what you're teaching. So it's really a cool concept. While you were CEO of Southern California Medical College, what steps were taken to help graduates find jobs, if any? So the Career Services Department, they do a phenomenal job building relationships with employers around town, healthcare facilities, skilled nursing facilities, even home health facilities. So these are the people that we connect with, build relationships with. So prior to us becoming Union Tech College, I really enjoyed that role. I really enjoyed connecting with community leaders and healthcare execs, to be able to send our students for clinical rotation, for the practical side of the curriculum, and then at the same time provide them a way for employment after graduation. So that's how we typically do it. There's such a huge shortage of nursing in Kern County, or in the whole United States period, that we have employers literally coming on campus, bringing boxes and boxes of donuts and talking to our students, prior to them graduating, most senior classes. And they literally say, hey, once you pass your board exam, come to our institution, we'll hire you. And they're not lying. You know, we have students that receive their actual nursing license that day in the mail. They walk in at 10 a.m. and then they walk out at 11 a.m. and they're hired. You know, it's literally a one-day kind of thing. You walk in, you're hired. And so there's such a huge, huge need for nurses within our area specifically. To kind of give you a perspective of why there's a shortage, not only because of baby boomers, but it also has to do with premium labor or premium overhead. So a lot of the hospitals, because we're not producing enough nurses, so with BC and Cal State combined, last year we only produced 259 RNs. And there were over 5,000 job openings for RNs in Bakersfield alone.
5,000?
5,000.
Wow.
5,000. It was absolutely insane. And so because of this shortage, the hospitals are forced to hire nurses, we call them travel nurses, you know, that are from agencies. And in terms of salary or labor, it's ridiculous. It's like the double the amount. So let's say we take a Cal State grad who has their bachelor's degree in nursing, and they enter Mercer, or they enter Adventist Health. You know, they're between $32 to $35 an hour, roughly around there. If you take someone from an agency who's a traveling nurse, you're easily at $60 to $70 an hour. It's like double the amount. And they pay for freaking everything, you know. And so imagine the millions and millions of dollars that the hospitals are spending just on premium overhead to be able to upkeep, you know, the nursing workforce here in our community. So, yeah, that's the biggest thing for us is, you know, hey, let's open this RN program up and help alleviate some of these problems, because it's not good. It's not good for us. You know, we don't want hospitals closing in our area because we're growing substantially. I think Current Economic Development just released their 2017 stuff a couple months ago, and I don't remember the exact metrics, but per capita, I think or per square mile, we're getting, you know, larger and larger in terms of population. So let me see. Oh, I think that's it. I think those are all the questions I have here.
There's a couple that came in since you printed that.
Sure.
So, Alexander Norman asked, what obstacles did you face when starting your career?
So, getting outside of the mindset of being a surfer, you know, and just being whatever. I literally just didn't care. You know, I just, dude, what's up? You know, like, I walked into work and I looked like a hobo and I was in front of desk reception. So, my parents had enough grades. They never gave me a position. You know, I always had to apply for positions and interview for them, and in turn allowed me to gain respect with my coworkers. Now that, you know, I became CEO and campus president, because some of them have been around since 2008. So they've seen me grow. But that was one biggest obstacle, a mind block of my own, alluding back to what I shared with you earlier. And then another thing is just being young. It's just difficult, you know, in healthcare to be young in terms of doing business development with different executives.
Lupita asks, what motivates you?
That's a good question. Besides my wife, because I want to be able to constantly provide for her, I took her on as my wife, so, you know, that's kind of my responsibility now. And be able to bring bacon home. I honestly want to make a difference. It's so cliche, but I want to make a difference. It's funny because we did this project at Stanford. You know, what motivates you? And people came up with the coolest ideas, and here I was, and I said, I just want to make a difference in my community. Whatever it is that I can do to help elevate our community, I'd like to get involved in that. Now you're probably thinking lifestyle brand. That's not really, you know, elevating. That's more, you know, indulging, you know, your vanity in life. I agree with that. I mean, that's just, it is what it is. So, but yeah, I mean, where I'm at right now in terms of my career is be making a difference in our community.
We tend, Nestor asked, we tend to want larger businesses and corporations to give back to communities. Do you think this is important for small businesses to do as well?
So, yes, Bakersfield is a unique town. I grew up in LA, in the West LA area, and so people are, snooty, naturally snooty in that area, and they're really cool people, but some of them are really snooty. So, with that said, Bakersfield is all about helping each other out, helping small businesses that rise within Bakersfield, and I really appreciate that about our community. And the way for you to be able to connect with people is essentially giving back or serving the community. So whether it's monetary or our students volunteer a lot in different flu shot drives or flu drive, whatever you call them, heart walk, different community events where they're giving health screening and stuff like that. So it's super important. It's critical to a small business operation here to get traction and also to get your brand out there, that you really care for people. We have a mayor. I had breakfast with Mayor Go this morning. Her and I are good friends. People think she's my mom because she's Asian too. She's crazy. So we go to places and they ask, "Where's your son?" I don't like her. She's like, "He's not my son." But anyways, we played along one time. We started calling me her son. It was funny. So we were having breakfast this morning, and we're part of the same board. And the biggest thing in her heart really is just serving the community. And again, it just goes back to that. And so she started talking about new businesses that are arising in our city. Our downtown area is thriving. A lot of people are booming there. And then we've got this really cool new coffee digs called Cloud9 Coffee. And they're in this really cool black trailer. And they give, they sell coffee. They're right now located Stockdale Towers, outside of it, where the Patron Club is. And it's just, people are starting to become creative because millennials are coming to town. And nationally, as millennials, because of how we grew up in terms of social media and, the arts that surrounded us, the music that surrounded us, we're naturally creative, and we tend to be creative. And I really like that about it. So, that's a really long answer to that question.
You kind of answered this before, but Eric asked, what was your biggest challenge working as CEO at Southern California Medical College? Maybe another challenge?
Sure.
Rather than your biggest one you've addressed already, but I'm sure there's plenty of other ones too.
Yeah, cash flow, managing cash flow. There are plenty of times where, God, we didn't know where we'd get the money for payroll. How are we going to pay our instructors and our staff? Because certain billing cycles just don't coincide. If you're doing biweekly, if you're compensating people biweekly, there are months where there's 3 pay periods. And when I first got on as COO, well, actually, as a director of operations, I did not realize that. Again, I was young. I was just like, oh, cool, I'm going to do operations. But I didn't realize the extent of having to fund or budget for those 3, pay period months. That was gnarly. It would be like Friday, and our payrolls due that 5 p.m., and we were like $40,000, $50,000 short, in payroll. And then and I like to say this, by divine intervention, we'd literally have funding come in terms of billing, students come in, and it'd be just enough. We'd have like $5,000 left. So that was like a part of having a small business or a family business, starting off that way. And that was fun. It was nerve-wracking, it was scary, but yet it was fun. Now that, we're a part of this larger institution, you kind of don't have to worry about cash flow. You're still in charge of the P&Ls and, manage everything the same way, but it's just cash flow is there. So,
okay.
Yeah.
Another question that you kind of answered, but I'll ask it because it comes from somebody else again. Maurizia asked, what made you choose the medical career and how stressful is it?
Well, my job is extremely stressful. I'm not only managing my staff and the people that work there, I'm also managing students. So Dr. Mitchell and I are in the same Rotary Club together, and I can't really compare myself to CCUB, but it's kind of the same concept because I have to deal with student problems as well that arises. So last week was a week from now. So this is a perfect question. So I went to go use the restroom, do my thing, and I walk in, and 4 nursing students, guys, huge guys, walk out all at the same time, look all sketchy. And I'm like, I know how that looks. Like, I'm not stupid. And so they all walk out, and I do my thing, and then I'm washing my hands, and in the mirror, I'm seeing this reflection. There is feet behind the freaking huge stall. And it wasn't, facing the toilet. The feet were facing me, standing like this. And I'm like, what the heck's going on here? And the feet were, really small, and they looked like, women's. I don't know. So I waited, right? So I walked out. I didn't want to confront whoever was in the bathroom because that's sketchy. So I walked out and waited for that person to walk out. And sure enough, it was a female, it was a female student. So this female student walks into the classroom, sits back in her desk, and I just called her from afar, and then starts retaking her test. They were taking a test. And so right when she sat down, I walk in the classroom, she turns around, she turned pale white, like she just knew what was going on, right? So all I had to do was look at her, and I was like this, and so she follows me. I walk, and this is kind of like a long corridor to my office. And my office is in the corner because I caused a lot of trouble, so they put me in the corner. Anyways, so I open my office up. She sits in the chair right when she butts hits on the door. Her butt hits the chair like this, and she starts bawling. And I'm just like, whoa, this is intense. Like, what's going on? Like, did she get raped? Like, my mind just went to the darkest places because at this point I'm like, oh my God, I hope nothing like this happened on my campus. So it turned out that the the guy students, were passing out cheating notes. And at that point, for some reason, she walked out of the women's restroom, and the guys' bathroom door was open, and she saw them congregating in there. And so she walked in, trying to find out, what's going on. And so she fessed up, gave me a cheat sheet, and it was like the whole test. I was like, how did they even get this? Freaking out at this point. She was gone. And it was just like, listen, I saw who was in there. You don't have to tell me, you don't have to lie to me. I go, what were you doing in there? Because I'm going to call him in regardless, and she's like, well, blah, blah, blah. So she told me, didn't know about it. I'm like, bullshit, everyone knows, everyone knows. And so I started calling the guys in. And the guys walked in, they're all puffed up and, mad. Why are you, blaming me for this? And I'm like, listen, I'm not stupid. In my third year or my junior year in high school, my last week in junior year in high school, I was suspended. My first week of senior year in high school, I was suspended. Why was I suspended? Because I tried to cheat and change my grades. I'm not stupid. I know what it feels like. So, anyways, we end up, writing them up, and they're in thin line right now because whatever it is that will cause a suspicion for them cheating, they're gone. And they're going to have a really hard time, probably not ever get into a nursing school again. Because, they'll get expelled, and that's it. They'll get blacklisted. So, it's really, it was a really crazy situation. I had a lot of reports due for corporate that day. I had to call up the CO and said, listen, I'm dealing with this. Sorry, I can't talk to you today. But, yeah.
Wow, that's a good story.
Oh, man, it was gnarly.
2 more questions. Kennedy asked, how much time do you spend on organization?
Oh my God. I'm going to be just completely honest with you guys. I'm not the most organized person. My office right now is a total mess. I have papers on the floor, that I should probably shred for days. I've got mail that I haven't opened in a year, just because I know they're trash, they're junk mail. So my days, though, I try to organize. So my days, I tend to break into 5 different groups, if you will. So my week, rather. So Mondays tend to be operations internally. So I focus more on operations on Mondays. Tuesdays, we have a lot of admission stuff, that we do corporately. So that's focused on admissions. On Wednesdays, a lot of community development, business development for clinical facilities. So I go out in different facilities. And then Thursdays, we have a lot of corporate operational stuff in terms for leadership. So a lot of leadership calls, execs and all that stuff get on the call. And then Fridays, I tend to go back and review or miss or touch base, circle back on what I missed. So that's kind of my organization. But again, I come from a surfer background. I by no means, I'm not even gonna lie. This right here is like a front. I honestly need flip flops right now. Yeah. I'm sure you wouldn't have mine either.
No. Last question from Jennifer. What do you like best about your job?
Seeing students and family members celebrating that they graduated and passed their board exam, and shedding tears at the same time. That's the coolest feeling when you're in a graduation ceremony and people are taking photos and celebrating the fact that they got their license and now they're able to work as a nurse. So coming from a $10, $10.50, $12.50 per hour job to now, I think a year later, like $26, $27 an hour. 45, 50,000.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So it's really neat, really neat. Our tuition cost is $26,000. So you kind of almost double, your investment within a year if you end up working and pass the board exam first and then working. So, man, it's the coolest feeling. Parents come up to you like big old dads come and bear hug me. I'm little and they try to pick me up. And it's like, oh, so yeah, it's really good.
I bet. Well, that's the last question I have on the list of pre-written questions. Does anybody have a question for Chad that we didn't go over?
I just have a quick question on a personal note. So if someone's interested in transferring from CSB into your school, would that be possible by any chance?
Yeah, so yeah. Interestingly enough, we get a lot of transfers for nursing majors from CCB and BC because of the wait list. So the answer is if you've taken your anatomy and physiology, because we predominantly do core nursing courses, that's about the only credit that we can transfer. In terms of you pursuing your RN afterwards, all the prereqs that you've done here or at BC, you'll be able to literally utilize. So we had students that finished their pre-nursing courses at BC, they transfer over, and then they do what we call an LVN to RN bridge program, which is a 1-year boot camp of you getting the RN license or be eligible to take the RN board exam, and then they utilize what they've taken at BC for the prereqs. Yeah. So short answer is yes.
Other questions for Chad?
How many years is the nursing program?
Yeah, so we've got 3 different ones. In Bakersfield we only have one, but it's LVN program, that's 11 months. And then we've got the Associate's Degree in Nursing program, which is in Fremont, and that's, I believe, 24 months to 2 years. And then after that, you have the RN to BSN program. Again, these are core nursing classes, right? So the RN to BSN program online, that's just another 12 months if you do that full time. So, you can, by the time you get your bachelor's in nursing, you're ready, 3 years of nursing experience, 4 years, if that. And then you're making a ton of money, already compared to a traditional way to getting a 4-year degree. So, but it costs a lot more, because there's no government subsidies that come in.
Great questions from everybody. Other questions for Chad? Okay, well, let's give him a big round of applause. Thank you, sir.
Thanks.
Always a pleasure.
Appreciate it. Absolutely.
And that's it for you guys. I'll see you next Tuesday.